Interview with CNN yesterday, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer called the Manhattan DA's probe a political stunt and explained why he felt Trump shouldn't be investigated. Take a look.
What do you say to Bragg, who says you're trying to stop a charge from happening even before you know of any evidence?
Well, what the DA is trying to say is what you just quoted. He said stay out of local investigations. The problem with that is this is not a local investigation. This is a federal investigation. He's investigating a presidential candidate, not to mention former president of the United States.
Well, he's investigating, as I understand it, potential violations of state crimes.
Even at that, look, let's just be honest here. I mean, this is about politics. This is a presidential candidate. This is something that if it needs to be investigated or prosecuted, it should be done on the federal level by the Department of Justice. This is a presidential candidate. I don't believe that Bragg would be doing this if Donald Trump were not running for president. And that's something that we would like to ask Mr. Bragg as well. Would you be doing this if he weren't a declared candidate for president of the United States?
Well, we will answer your question for you. And by the way, when you're lying through your teeth repeatedly, do yourself a favor. Don't say, let's be honest.
No.
Don't say, let's just be honest, because you're lying through your teeth. You know you're lying through your teeth.
But does he? But does he?
Well, again, sure. this is one of the great things.
I don't think
about. Yeah, he does. This is one of the great things about Republicans, though, that Trumpist Republicans.
This one may not know.
No, he does. This one knows very well. He knows a lot. This one. But anyway, no. Well, he knows a lot. He knows how to do a lot. But anyway, these Republicans, they come from a foreign, distant land. They never had videotape when they were growing up. They don't realize that the images and the words that are said in the past can come back to haunt them. Because he said the only reason why he's doing this, well, he wouldn't be doing this if Donald Trump weren't running for president, as if he forgot all the times before Trump announced his latest run from the presidency. Everybody was predicting he would do it. Why? So his allies could claim, like Comer just did, that the investigations were politically motivated. Oh, they're only doing this because he's running for president. Oh, no, they would never do this if he weren't right. We said for a year that if Donald Trump ran and if he announced early, it would be so he could say the 4 investigations that were currently moving forward were connected to a political campaign. Problem was, the political campaign wasn't going when these investigations were going. So Donald Trump gets out there very early. Remember, he couldn't even get his family members to go there with him. Couldn't get his kids to be there. He had to get out there as fast as possible because he didn't know when the indictment was coming. And last summer, by the way, in a piece in Rolling Stone, it read this, quote, in recent months, Trump has made clear to associates that the legal protections of occupying the Oval Office are front of mind for him. He wanted to get there to protect himself legally, just like Netanyahu in Israel. Reporting in Salon read this, quote, it's pretty clear that Trump understands the presidency to be his get out of jail free card. Again, before he announced, columnist Jennifer Rubin wrote in the Washington Post, quote, Trump will announce his run if for no other reason than he craves the limelight and he thinks it will be harder for authorities to prosecute an active candidate. That was in June of 2022. Mr. What's the guy's name? Comer.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Homer Comer. A report in The Guardian read this, quote, Trump has reportedly told advisors that declaring a run for the White House would allow him to strengthen his argument that other criminal investigations against him in New York and Georgia are politically motivated. Mika, all of this, again, what Comer's saying is such a lie. Such a lie. Everybody saw this coming. miles away. And they're up there going, oh, this is only because he's a presidential candidate. As if we didn't have videotape. As if we didn't have these articles saying, no, the reason he's going to run is so they can use this stupid argument after he runs.
And by the way, here's what you said back in 2019. Take a look.
I had been saying for some time, because people very close to Donald Trump had been saying a couple of years ago they did not think he would seek a second term. He wasn't enjoying the job. It was too ugly. Now, not only is he going to seek a second term to avoid a jail term, possibly, if you listen to the testimony yesterday, he's going to once again do a win-at-all-cost campaign. It may even get uglier in 2020 than it did in 2016, because Donald Trump's freedom may be on the line. Think about that. We've got a guy that is running for re-election so he won't get indicted and be sent to jail. Speaking of other planets, I don't know what planets we were on there.
A lot of very blonde hair.
Well, it was the lighting. The lighting was bad.
Yeah, okay.
It looked like that really tall guy that goes around. And
this has been something that has. Oh, wow.
Look at this. I look like, who's that guy that was?
I think I dipped my hair in some bleach.
No, I think
took Donald Trump's COVID advice.
Wow.
Okay.
I have no idea what's going on there. Charlie, we're gonna forget our high school pictures there from just like 6 months ago. But, you know, bad things happen when you wake up at 3:30 every morning.
It's true.
But, Charlie, that prediction of mine, 2019.
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago. You were saying the same thing. I'm a dumb country lawyer. It's not like that was original. Everybody was saying the same thing. He'll run for re-election to try to avoid prosecution. Now Comer stands up there like some idiot, like there's no such thing as videotape, going, well, they're only charging him because he's running for president. What do you say to that?
Well, Donald Trump has been consistent on all of these things because he thinks that obstruction of justice works because it's worked for him in the past. So now obstruction of justice has now become, a central tenet for people like Representative Comer. By the way, save that videotape where he is saying that, well, this should not be a local prosecution. This should be the Department of Justice. Watch what he says when the Department of Justice moves against Donald Trump. What's interesting about these guys is that they will just simply shift their ground anytime that it's useful for them. So Republicans will be for states' rights until they're not for states' rights. They're for local control until they're not for local control. And these are the same folks, of course, who had no problem with the fact that Donald Trump could not be indicted when he was a sitting president. And now they're arguing that he can't be indicted when he's an ex-president or running for office. Look, there's nothing subtle about Donald Trump. There is a through line here. And what you're seeing is this full-on frontal attempt to obstruct justice by intimidating justice. By the way, when you were showing the rally down in Waco before, I really enjoyed the fact that they have pre-printed signs saying witch hunt. I mean, they actually printed up the signs saying witch hunt. So this has become central to the Trump campaign. He's making no bones about it, as you pointed out, Joe. He spent almost the entire speech talking about his own grievances, not talking about the future, not talking about other people's problems, all about his own problems and how he can use this candidacy to get out from under being held accountable by the rule of law.